Hey guys, it's Carrie and Zach here from the Coffee and KO's crew. And Zach, I got a question for you. You ever wake up on a Sunday morning and think, man, I'll cook the family some breakfast this morning?
Yeah, time or two.
Have you ever noticed how you throw the sausage links up on the griddle to one side, you throw the eggs up on the griddle to the other side, you never cook them touching?
No, you don't ever want them to touch. It's weird.
Yeah, I agree, man. And it got me to thinking, why do we do that with our underwear?
I have no idea. That's a really good question.
Yeah, I think it is too. But let me tell you, fellas, Sheath has solved that problem. They have come out with men's underwear with not one, but two pockets to keep your eggs and sausage separated.
Thank goodness. This has been a problem for way too long. I can't believe it took, I'm 26 years old, 26 years at least, to come up with something so intelligent. The material is great. Everything about Sheath underwear is amazing. And what's even better, we have a promo code. Promo code Coffee and KOs. If you use the promo code Coffee, the letter N, KOs, at checkout, you get 20% off your entire order. It's a hell of a deal. And let me tell you, the underwear are well worth it. So make sure you go to sheathunderwear.com. Promo code Coffee and KOs. Make sure you separate the sausage and the eggs. And make sure you sheath your dagger. Sheathunderwear.com. Coffee and KOs promo. 20% off. Go get yourself the most comfortable underwear in the world. And don't forget to sheath your dagger.
Ladies and gentlemen, Fight Bananas presents Coffee and KO's podcast. We're crazy about fights and jacked on caffeine.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Coffee and KOs podcast. It's your host, Zach. I'm along with Steve and special guest, Joshua Byers. Josh, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So anyway, boys, big weekend ahead. We got UFC 258, Burns, Usman, and I'm pretty stoked about it. Honestly, at first, I feel like I was sleeping on the card a little bit. I was looking at it, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of shitty. And then after I kind of looked at it the last couple of times, like, you know what? The card's actually not too bad.
Yeah, I think we kind of said it wasn't too good right off the bat, and then I was kind of breaking down the fights, and the main card's really not that bad. And actually, the prelims are probably where we're going to see most of our best fights of the night, potentially. I know it starts right off with Miranda Maverick, that's our girl, and then she takes on Julian Robertson. So, all the way through, this actually has pretty decent potential.
Yeah, for the first fight of the night, Miranda Maverick, that's the first fight, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty dang solid to start off a pay-per-view card, and that fight's free. So I think there's great matchups on this card, like good style matchups that could create for really good fights, but you really never know until you just start watching and see what happens, which is the great part of the sport.
Yeah, actually, huge test too for Miranda Maverick. Like, this is a huge jump for her after her debut. So, like Steve said, she's our girl, and this is a huge step for her. So I'm pretty stoked, and it's a good way to start the night.
Yeah, and like you said, it was that's a free fight. Like these prelims are going to be all for free, and then when you toss in the fact that you do have to pay like $70 to watch the main card on UFC 258, I don't know if it's really worth the money at that point. I wish the pay-per-view system was set up a little bit better, or maybe if they could just juice up this card a little bit more. The star power isn't quite there.
Really, all they had to do was move Barber and Grasso out of the co-main and move one of the prelims. Like honestly, like give me Jim Miller, Bobby Green on the main card. Give me Ricky Simone, Brian Kelleher, which is an electric fight on the main card. Like I'm not saying you had to take Barber and Grasso out of the main card. Like I like Macy Barber and Grasso, but like that's not a co-main. You know what I mean? Like you got to build up the pay-per-views a little bit. And so I feel like if they would have just moved one of the early prelims up and then bump one of the prelims onto the main card, I feel like it would have juiced it up a little bit more. Like you said, I mean, $70, you know, and Maki Patolo is fighting on the main card. Like I feel like, I mean, I like Maki Patolo, but hasn't even looked good his last 2 fights. Like to me, like he's a prelim. How is he on the main card? Like I want to know how Ricky Simone, Brian Kelleher is not on the main card. Like that fight might be the best fight of the night, in my opinion, outside of Burns Usman.
We haven't seen Macy Barber since that injury versus Roxanne.
Yeah.
Interesting. And they put her against Grasso, who's pretty dang solid herself. So, co-main, I'm not feeling it, but maybe like the start of the pay-per-view would be good. Gastelum, Heinisch gets my juices flowing a little bit. And, but I think Julian Marquez is the name power because we haven't seen him in a long time. And that's one of my KC guys. So I'm excited for him to get that opener on the pay-per-view for sure.
And he was supposed to fight not too long ago. I feel like it was a few months back, and then something happened where they had to scrap it. But I remember looking into him. Yeah, he hasn't fought in like 3 years or something, but he started off pretty strong in the UFC.
It was Saperbeg Safarov, I think, a couple months ago. Yeah, some intestine issue, I think, but he made weight and everything, so he's got that experience of making weight. He just didn't fight, so now he knows what to expect now, making weight, and then he's got to fight.
And his nickname, isn't it the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Mm-hmm.
Which is just a savage name.
Coconut Bomb versus the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's the nickname matchup of the night that I'm excited for.
Yeah, I think that's why he made the main card. That's got to be the only reason.
Bruce is going to have a tough time right there.
Yeah.
Well, and then, like, all right, so then you have Bobby Green and Brian Kelleher fighting too, which they're already off. 2020, they fought a billion times. Now 2021, early in 2021, they're fighting again. So we'll probably see them another 5 times this year, which is absolutely ridiculous. Phil Rowe fights. He's a stud. Like, I enjoy watching him fight. Bilal Muhammad, that's another good fight. Like, I mean, I'm a huge Jim Miller fan, Jersey guy, not too far away from where I'm at. And so he'll be, after this fight, he will have the most fights in UFC history at 37, which is ridiculous as well.
Yeah, and I feel like, isn't he one of the most winningest in the UFC as well? He has like 20 plus wins. Like, that's pretty insane. And Bobby Green's been around for a minute, like forever. And I feel like he fought like a whole bunch of times in 2020. I think he dropped his last fight. Forget who it was against, but that's definitely, yeah, that's right. Because I didn't really like Moises, and then he kind of showed out in that one. But this is going to be an awesome fight. This is like for the people. People love both of these guys. They've been around forever. Both look pretty solid still, so I'm looking forward to that one as well.
That's a good matchup.
Yeah, and I think the main card fight that I'm kind of most looking forward to outside the main event is Pedro Munoz, Jimmy Rivera. I think that fight is electric.
Same.
Both those guys really throw tons of volume, tons of strikes, and both are super well rounded as well. So it's like whenever you get the little guys in the octagon, man, it's always just a good fire fight. And like I just feel like that fight is going to be a banger. Like, that could really lean either way. Jimmy Rivera 23-4, Pedro Munoz 18-5. Like that, I mean, that stylistically, that fight is going to be insane.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that's a rematch of sorts.
Yeah.
A split decision. I don't even recall the first one. I wish I did, but I watched Jimmy Rivera and Petr Yan's fight again today just to refresh my memory. But I feel like a lot of people might expect Munoz to go in and have a good performance because he looks so good against Frankie Edgar. but Jimmy Rivera has been at the top for it just like
Ever.
forever. So for so many years now, it seems like. So I like that rematch. I feel like it's going to play out differently. Maybe another split decision like the first time because these guys are very close.
Yeah, I feel like this is the one that should be probably the co-main event.
Oh,
It's just two. I think it's number 8 versus number 9. Both guys obviously look very good. Pedro Munoz, he was the one who fought Frankie Edgar in his bantamweight debut, and I think Munoz was like a massive favorite in that one. So this is a really close line. I think it's basically a pick 'em at that point. And I kind of struggled with this pick. I went back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Munoz, like, I'm not taking too much stock in that loss to Frankie because he could have easily got the dub in that too. Like, that was honestly, that could have went either way, that fight. So, Munoz isn't going to go anywhere. He's been around for a while. He's going to stick around in that division for a bit. So that fight is going to be electric as well. But before we get to the card, Steve, any news? Rate your matchups. The whole shindig before we get to the meaty stuff.
Yeah, we can do the rate that matchup. So, Josh, basically, there's some fights that's been announced in like the last week or so that we haven't talked about yet, and then I'll just kind of announce what that is, and then we try to rank that like 1 to 5, and then if you want to just talk about it a little bit, we can do that. So, there's been some pretty nice fights that have been announced. The first one I have here is Vicente Luque taking on Tyron Woodley at UFC 260. That one kind of confused me, to be honest. I don't really know which way to go with this one. What do you guys think?
What do you mean it confused you? We talked about this we said it was gonna happen before it was even announced on our show.
Not the fact that it got announced. It's the matchups. It's like I don't know where Tyron Woodley's at all. I know where Vicente Luque's at, but if Woodley's not there, he's gonna get knocked out.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Tyron Woodley is gonna be headed towards retirement after this fight. All right, I'll say that I'll give an if he comes out and fights the fight that he's fought the last 3-4 fights, it's going to be his last fight in the UFC because he's going to get absolutely picked apart by Vicente Luque. And Vicente Luque possesses a lot more power than what the last couple guys Tyron Woodley's fought. So he will put Woodley out. And he's a crafty striker too. And he's not going to put Vicente Luque away either. That's the thing. Vicente Luque has an incredible chin. So I think that, I feel like the UFC basically said to Tyron Woodley, like, take this fight or you're done. This is your shot. We need to know where Vicente Luque stands because obviously he lost to Wonder Boy, so that kind of set him back. But we need to know where he stands and we need to know where you stand. And this is the matchup we want to see. It's either take it or leave it. And, I think that Woodley in his mind thinks he still has it. I think physically he's still there. It's something mentally. We've talked about it before, like pitchers in baseball get the yips. Tyron Woodley has the yips for fighting, and it's not that he can't fight. He just looks lost. He has no game plan. He just doesn't know what to do. He gets overwhelmed way too quick, way too timid. And so for me, the matchup, I think it's like a 4. It gets me excited because I'm a huge Tyron Woodley fan. I was at least. I feel like it's time for him to kind of consider retirement. And I also love Vicente Luque, and I think we're going to learn a lot in that fight about where each guy stands. So because of the implications of the fight, I think it's going to be around a 4 for me, but a dangerous fight for Tyron Woodley when it comes to career perspective.
Luque he's a mad, wild man. I love watching Luque fight. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch in the UFC. It used to be Mike Perry, but then he just made me more and more angry as the time went on. This is like a 4 for me. It's like I'm falling into the trap again where Tyron Woodley, you see him on social media all the time and he's talking and he's telling you he's going to be back and he's going to make one more title run. I don't want to fall into the trap of believing him again because every time I've seen him fight lately, it's been gross and just it doesn't look right. Like you said, the yips is what it looks like, but maybe like a 3 matchup wise because Luque deserves this. Definitely. It's the easiest run to a title with Tyron Woodley. You beat him, then you're on your way to a title kind of thing. So I'll give it like a 3 matchup wise. I love Luque, but Tyron Woodley, I don't think he's ready to be in there with the kind of savage that Luque is.
Yeah, I'm going to be dumb enough to fall for the trap. Just the only reason I'm going to do it too is because of the last 3 opponents that Woodley has faced have just been the top 3 guys in the division. So I'm giving him a little bit of slack. Like this is going to be kind of a nice, I'm not going to call it a fresh breath of air because Luque is an absolute killer, but it's, it's not Colby Covington. It's not Usman. It's not Gilbert Burns. Those are all absolute animals. So I'm going to hold on to like a little bit of Tyron Woodley here. I'll go with a 4 in it. That
But
we're going to see.
He wasn't even close in any of those fights.
But dude, those are literally the best of the best.
But yes, but what you don't like, the thing is though, like if he would have made them close fights and like did any sort of striking, I could totally agree with you.
He did nothing. Like
but
literally
he
nothing.
He literally, you and I could fight the fight that he fought in all of those fights. He literally sat with his back against the cage the entire time and just wore damage. Like, to me, like that's the worst way you could fight Vicente Luque. Tyron Woodley is a world-class wrestler. He doesn't use it. He hasn't used it in a long time. So the only way that he would beat Luque is that he's not going to do it. Like he's just not. I think Woodley still has his chin. We've never seen him really get knocked out. I just think he's going to wear a ton of damage. Like he just has no idea like what he's doing. It's like he's completely forgot that he was one time a champ. It's incredible to me. So I don't know how you could hop back on the Woodley train. It's been 3 fights, man. Like, and none of them were close.
I'm just, stylistically, it's going to be so different. All 3 of those guys did basically the same exact thing. They just took him to the ground and just held him down the whole time and unloaded volume. But Luque's not going to do that. So I'm just thinking there is a small chance here because Woodley was the former champ. He still should obviously have the power. Like you said, he's still physically strong. There's just a part of me. Yeah. Right.
Power shot.
Yeah, but one power shot isn't going to send out Luque because he's an animal. He doesn't get
Woodley,
knocked out.
If he hits you, dude, he had some power in those hands.
That's if he even throws that's even if he throws a punch. Steve, I'm questioning you, bro. First, you didn't want Alistair Overeem. You didn't want Alistair Overeem to retire last week. Now you're saying Tyron Woodley's going to come out and win. Like it just, I don't know, man. I'm interested to see what the betting lines are for that because
it's a big, it's one-sided for Luque is a big favorite.
Good. Yeah. It should be that way. Yes, it should 100% be that way because I think it's a worse matchup for him. Like I think if a guy's wrestling, it almost leans into Woodley's favor because he has the wrestling background. He doesn't have to worry about wearing the damage. Now you're going to have a guy throwing a million shots at you at a time. Like, I think that's more dangerous for him.
In the knees of Luque. I'd like to see Adrian Thompson run it back if he beats Woodley. If he beats Woodley, I'd like to see that happen.
Or Luque, Jeff Neal. Yeah. That would be sick too.
Both the guys who lost to Wonderboy, just put them in together.
Yeah, that fight would be electric.
All right. Well, we got other fights to talk about here. So the next one, so Sugar Sean O'Malley's making his comeback at UFC 260. That got announced, I think, just last week. He's taking on Thomas Almeida. I personally think it's kind of a cop-out for Sean O'Malley. Like, he just talks such a big game, and he gets so overhyped, and he just fought Marlon Vera, and then he's going to kind of drop down to Thomas Almeida. I was a little disappointed by that matchmaking. I would probably give this one a 3. I don't know what you guys think about it.
I'm going 2. Bro. First off, screw Sean O'Malley. I was a fan. He's a punk. I can't stand the fact that he goes out there, loses to Chito Vera, and still claims he's 12-0. Then he's talking about doing heroin, like, and it's not that serious. Like, he's a turd, bro. He is the definition of a turd. And listen, he's gonna go out and probably beat the shit out of Thomas Almeida, but to me, that doesn't get my blood flowing. Like, Thomas Almeida was like a stud, like 7 years ago, and then he's just totally fallen off since then. Listen, I think Sean O'Malley has a ton of potential. Like, as far as like, I think his skill set is legit. Like, I do think he's legit, fighter. I think that his skill set's very, very good. But in the media, like, I mean, if you want people to be drawn to you for the right or wrong reasons, he's got it. But for me, it's for all the wrong reasons. And when it comes to people like that, that shit drives me crazy. So I was still with him. And then the Chito Vera thing, saying he was still 12-0, made me scratch my head. And then you add in what he said the other day about like doing heroin and it's not that serious. And I'm just like, this guy has completely lost all touch of reality.
I didn't see this heroin thing, but I'd give it like a 3.5, 4, because I feel like a lot of people know Sean O'Malley. I enjoy watching Sean O'Malley fight, and him like having an injury in his last fight kind of didn't take away his famousness, notoriety in a lot of people's eyes because they're like, oh, he got hurt and fell out. But yeah, Almeida's got one of the glassiest. He's the chinny guy that if you hit him with a shot, like with the accuracy that O'Malley is, it's an easy one. But I enjoy watching Sean O'Malley fight. So like a 3.5 and a 4 for me.
Yeah, I feel like it's always kind of a must-watch fight when it's Sean O'Malley, and his fan base too is like grown so much, and like he's got all the diehard fans with him. So if you talk shit about Sean O'Malley on Twitter or on Instagram, like they just come back right at you.
He's also got the whole drug addict community on his side now too.
I didn't see that either. I don't know what that's about.
I'm telling you, Google it. It was on like a podcast or something like that.
I saw he's been training with Drakkar Close, and that's a guy I'm a pretty big fan of. So I like that he's in there with him at least some of the time.
I do think like sky's the limit for Sean O'Malley. Like when it comes to like watching him fight, I do enjoy watching him fight. It's just like the shit outside the octagon. Like sometimes that stuff drives me crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm not watching his podcast or anything like that. That's not for me.
Yeah, I don't know if he has one, but if so, it's not for this crowd here.
All right, so we'll do two more here.
My mom would discourage me from hanging out with Sean O'Malley.
He's got those rainbow dreads. I don't know. This whole thing. I'm not a fan either. All right, Drew Dober, Islam Makhachev, booked for UFC 259. That's obviously a huge fight. Everyone thinks Islam Makhachev is basically the next guy up at 155 who's going to take Khabib's throne eventually. Drew Dober's been on a little bit of run. He can definitely hold his own. So this is a pretty interesting matchup. Obviously, any matchup against Makhachev is very difficult. So we'll start with Josh here.
I haven't seen a lot of Islam Makhachev I know what everyone says about him, and he trains closely with Khabib and all this stuff. I was a big proponent of Nasrat Haqparast being kind of the next guy just because I like Firas Zahabi. I like the fact that he's been training with George St. Pierre, Nasrat, that is. And then Drew Dober flatlined him absolutely in the first round. And so that kind of gave me a new perspective on Drew Dober, that he's kind of on the come up himself. Islam Makhachev, if he gets a hold of you, then he's going to make Drew Dober, I think, look average again. Like we have seen the old Drew Dober, but I do think Drew Dober has turned that corner in his career where he is ready to fight the best of the best and consistently fight the best of the best. For me, this is like a 2. I like the matchup, but the name value, I need to see Makhachev do more, and I like Drew Dober. I like them both. Like I'm a hardcore MMA fan. I know these guys. I've watched them fight. For the casual MMA fan, I'll give it a 2 because I need to see more from probably both of them.
Yeah, I like this one for a 3. You know, I'm a fan of Dober. You know, I like Dober. He's been around for a while, dude. He's been around for like 6-7 years already in the UFC. Like his debut was in 2014, and he's fought some really tough competition. He's got wins over Scott Holtzman, Frank Camacho, Marco Polo Reyes, Haz Parat, which you just said, and then Alexander Hernandez. He knocked him out too. Like Drew Dober is a savage. Like he's really, really good. I think that this is the perfect test for Makhachev. Like a guy that's been around for a while, has, you know, Dober's really well-rounded. Like he prefers to stand and strike, but like he can really do it all. I'm a huge fan of Dober, and I like Makhachev. I think that, you know, to me, like for Makhachev, this is the fight that people will look back on. And if he dominates Drew Dober, you know he's legit, because Drew Dober has stepped in there with some complete savages before. So, you know, I think that this is a huge fight for Makhachev, and it's a huge fight for Dober too. He's only 32, still trying to kind of make a name for himself. So, yeah, I would go like a 3 on that one.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not super excited about it. It's definitely a solid matchup. Like you said, we still don't have like the superstar power out of this, but whoever wins this one, and if they can do it in a big fashion, they'll definitely make some moves. I'm actually surprised to see Drew Dober's not ranked. Islam Makhachev is number 14, so
Steve,
we'll see where they go.
Drew Dober's last loss. Guess who it was against?
I was just looking at it. It's my dude. It's my dude, but Neil Dariush, man. He beats everyone. You just look at everyone's losses. He's beating everyone.
Who was Makhachev supposed to fight? It got canceled. It wasn't RDA, was it?
I can find out. It might have been I think it was like a huge test for him.
It was, yeah. I was
it did get
to see it, but
canceled. Let's see.
Obviously not enough because I forgot who it was supposed to be. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Makhachev in there against some good.
Well, our guy Aaron is a huge Makhachev fan as well.
Okay.
It was so it was actually he was supposed to face Alexander Hernandez. That was banged, and then you had RDA twice. It was rescheduled 2 times. December 20 or October 24th, and then November 14th. Both times were canceled. That's when Felder stepped in.
That's right.
On 5 days notice.
Oh yeah. See, if it was RDA, you bump this up to like a 4. That would be an amazing fight to watch. No offense to Drew Dober, but
RDA is
matchup
a tougher,
there.
Yeah, tougher matchup stylistically because he can wrestle as well.
Right.
So I think that stylistically, I think that was a tougher matchup for Makhachev. But I don't think Drew Dober's a walk in the park either. But we'll see.
Yeah, he should be able to run through Drew Dober if he was scheduled to fight RDA.
Oh, the hype is there. People literally think he's going to be number 1 by the end of this year or next. So we'll see. But the last one on this one, and I'm not a huge fan, but this is just one of those situations where you don't really know what to do with the guys. But Donald Cowboy Cerrone is taking on Diego Sanchez. That got booked for May. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of this. I think Diego Sanchez, he's got to be 1 fight away from retiring. Donald Cerrone, I know he's got to be contemplating it at some point. That guy just keeps fighting. He's up and down right now. I don't know where he's at. Diego Sanchez had a tough outing in his last fight, I believe. I think he got finished in his last fight. But I'm giving this one maybe a 2, 2.5, just because we might get a nice knockout out of it. But I'm not excited.
I'm going 4. Cowboy's my guy.
Man.
Love Cowboy. If you listen to the show, Paul Felder, Cowboy Cerrone, my all-time 2 favorite fighters ever. So those 2 guys will always be at least a 4 in my book. So not only that, I hate Diego Sanchez. Cowboy's going to go out. He's going to flatline Diego Sanchez, and that's going to be the last time we have to see him, and it's going to be great. So I think from a fan standpoint, if you don't like Diego Sanchez, it's going to be the last time you're going to see him fight, most likely, hopefully, fingers crossed. And it's going to be a TKO or KO loss to the Cowboy. And maybe Cowboy rides off in the sunset with that knockout. Because Cowboy knows, he said he's only had a couple fights left. He's training guys now. He's got the ranch and everything. I don't want to see him retire because I'm a huge fan. But obviously, I don't want to see him keep getting his ass kicked either. So I think it's a perfect fight to go out there, finish Diego Sanchez's career, and then walk off, in the sunset and call it a career. So for me, because I don't like Sanchez and I love Cowboy, I think that for me personally, I give it a 4, but probably for most people, that's probably a 2, 2.5.
This would be a great prelim main event, I think, because if it touches the main event of a fight night, it's not getting me too excited for that particular fight night. I would think, but if it's maybe a pay-per-view prelim main event, then that's where I'd get excited for it, just to have that on the card. But as a fight night, I hope you don't think it's going to be a main event for a fight night, do you? There's no way.
No, I think it could be
Probably
on
not.
the main card. I think it could be the first fight on the main card of a pay-per-view maybe.
Okay, yeah. So the names get me excited. Diego Sanchez, he was in Krause's DMs talking some stuff about his weird trainer, Joshua Fabia.
Right.
I'm ashamed to share his name. But no, Diego Sanchez didn't do it for me. They gave him a young guy. I think Dana was like, here's a young guy. This is a young guy's game, like I always say. And you got demolished. Now he gets the fight with Cowboy. That probably makes him a little happy. But Cowboy looked a little better against Nico Price, where it makes me think that he's going to probably beat Diego Sanchez rather easily.
Yeah, and I was just looking. So that fight against Nico Price, that was the co-main event in September on a fight night. That was actually Covington Woodley, funny enough. But yeah, I would imagine that's going to be, Nico Price, in my opinion, obviously should be higher than Diego Sanchez. So we'll see where they put that one. And
like a 2.5, 3.
Yeah, I'd say so. All right, so that's it for Rate the Matchup. And then we got some quick headlines. There wasn't really too much going on here, but Zach, I remember you texted me earlier, I think it was last week, it was about some of those UFC cuts that came in, and some of the names were surprising. I mean, Spike Carlisle, we've seen him. I know he's dropped a few of his fights, but he's looked very competitive at least. Our guy, Slippery Peter Barrett, he had really tough competition in his first 2 fights in the UFC. lost both of those. And then another name I had on there was Jacob Kilburn. I think, isn't he more of a younger fighter too?
He's in his 30s. He's been around for a while.
Is he?
But he doesn't have a lot of. He's only got like 11 fights or something like that, 12 fights. So not a ton of fights. But no, the Spike Carlisle one was definitely the eye-popping one for me because his biggest issue was his cardio. Like other than that, he was a hell of a fighter. Like that dude threw bombs, very good wrestler. He just couldn't last past like the first 1.5 rounds. Like he would get so gassed so quick. So that was the only thing I think he really needed to fix. I think other than that, like he was honestly fun to watch. So I enjoyed watching him fight. So that was the one that really stuck out to me. You know, obviously Peter Barrett's a friend of the show, so that was tough. But, you know, we kind of had a feeling that was going to happen. You know, when you lose to Yusuf Zalal, who, you know, is a young guy, and then you lose to another young guy in Chase Hooper, in which he was winning the fight and then got caught in the heel hook. You know, so we kind of saw the writing on the wall there. And then just because we're friends with, obviously we record under the Fight Bananas banner and friends with Dave. Dave is friends with Jacob Kilburn and basically said that fight was a loser leave town. So wasn't too surprised by that one either. So, and there's going to be more cuts coming. I mean, especially after last week's card, like we talked about, you know, to me, like I forget the names already that we mentioned, but there were
Rivera was one of them.
Yeah, Jerome Rivera, like those guys that lost last week bad, that, you know, were on the fence, are probably going to be gone. And that's what we're going to see. Guys that you cannot afford in the UFC, especially now with the Contender Series and everything else, you cannot afford to be dropping 2-3 fights in a row, especially in bad fashion. Like you have to make a name for yourself early. I mean, look at DiChirico. Let's be honest. If he doesn't get that knockout of Joaquin Buckley, you think that he's possibly not a guy that's getting cut? He's older. You know, like if you're not active and you're an older guy, you're not going to stick around. If he would have went out and got his head knocked off by Joaquin Buckley, he might have been staring at a cut. So you have to do what you can to survive in the business. And those guys, unfortunately, just didn't do it.
Yeah, I remember Spike, he was fighting Billy Quarantillo, and he just walked off at the end of like the first round or something. Like he thought it was over, and then Billy just came in.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the type of thing that may just piss Dana White off a little bit, and then you lose your next fight. I don't know. I thought Dana would be the type of guy to like a guy like Spike Carlisle. But, yeah, you lose 2, 3, even 2 fights in a row in the UFC against the competition, you might be out.
Yep, there's always another guy in there waiting to get in. And even I don't think really anyone is really necessarily safe. It's like the higher up you are, the more money you make. And if you're not, like, I feel like Junior Dos Santos is a guy. I don't know if has he been cut yet, or
no.
You know, he probably makes a lot when he fights, and that's someone who's probably going to be on the way out. So I don't really think anyone is safe
Romero.
At this point.
And the Contender Series being like so popular, I feel like the Contender Series, you're getting more prospects there, and they already know your name before you even fight in the UFC.
Yeah,
the key.
The Contender Series is definitely the driving force behind the cuts, because you have the younger talents, and like you said, the people. You know, if you see a viral knockout on the Contender Series, you're almost got a fan base before your first UFC fight already. Like there's been guys on the Contender Series that put on a hell of a performance, and you're like, holy shit, I can't wait till this guy's debut. And you look, I mean, we look at the cards every single week, and you're like, oh, I remember this guy. He's the one that put on this insane performance when he was on the Contender Series. Like, and you have guys like Yoel Romero making tons of money, but dropped how many fights? Yeah, it was against top competition. But when you're 40 years old, making good money, but obviously not contending at that point, there's no reason to keep you around. And as much as I love Rumble Johnson, take 3 years off, 2 years, whatever it is, you know, you come back and he could never beat the top guys in the division. He would always lose the big fights. So yeah, Rumble would probably sell pay-per-views or whatever, but like it wasn't going to be enough probably compared to what they were paying him, especially if he would have went out there one time and lost, you know what I mean? So I think Bellator was a safer choice for Rumble as well, but also probably a smart business move on Dana's side. But Dana honestly said, he's like, I wanted to keep Rumble. He didn't want to stick around. So, you know, and then we also saw with Corey Anderson too. Like, I mean, guys that are on the top, but getting older and can't win the big fights aren't going to stick around either.
That's a good thing for us fight fans, is we can watch all these different promotions and still get to see our guys. But Julian Marquez is a good example. Viral knockout on Contender Series. I think he's only had like one fight in the UFC, but you slot him in the main or the first card of pay-per-view, and people already kind of know who he is, even though he's been out for 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then even like a guy like Alex Perez, he was on the Dana White Contender Series, and he launched all the way up into a title shot. So that's definitely the avenue a lot of these people are taking, and you kind of get rid of the older fighters, you bring in the new fighters. That's just the cycle we'll be in. But the only other one I had on here was BKFC Knuckle Mania happened this past weekend. I didn't get to watch it. I made the decision to watch Rough and Rowdy, which is a mistake on my end.
Listen, we've talked about this. Rough and Rowdy is a great time. So it's okay, it's Steve. It's okay. I don't know why you didn't double screen it, but no, I watched some Rough and Rowdy too. I mean, I tuned into Jose Canseco. You got to watch all the fights. I mean, it's just hilarious. Like it's a good time.
But so you watched Knuckle Mania though, correct?
Yes.
So I saw Paige Van Zandt. She lost by unanimous decision.
She threw a knee.
I didn't even get in the fight at all, but like she is on like a 3-4 fight losing streak, but like her fan base is like in the millions. Dude, like
she made 500,000. She was making 40K in the UFC. She made 500,000 this weekend, and I'm sure that obviously with sponsors and everything else, it went up. But yeah, I just I don't know about Paige, man, and I think that Taylor Killa B would absolutely work Paige Van Zandt. It's a whole nother ball game. First off, so I watched actually Dave was interviewing Killa B today, and she said like it is a whole nother ball game when you are fighting with no gloves. Like I understand the UFC like the MMA gloves, there is some padding. There's not a ton, but when you have no padding and then you have the tape on the hands, honestly, probably makes it worse than if you got hit with a bare fist because they're like that tape is rough. So it's a whole nother ball game. And Taylor Starling said, like, I would much rather fight someone who didn't have as much experience than fight Britton Hart because I didn't know what it felt like to get hit with no gloves until, this fight. And, that's a big step for Paige. She's been in MMA forever. She's never done just boxing. And if she has, it's been with like gloves, not bare knuckles. So I think it's going to be a rough go for her. She didn't wear that much damage. Like she didn't look bad, but I don't know, man. Like I think everyone kind of questioned, like it's a little risky. You can't be a crafty striker. You can't throw elbows. You can't throw spinning shit. Like it's literally just boxing and that's it. So I don't know, man. I don't know if she was worth the money. I mean, she's going to get the draw, obviously. Like she's beautiful and everyone loves her, but I don't know, man. It was rough. It was rough. She definitely lost the fight without a doubt. Though her only good round was the last round. She was kind of coming into her own, but by then it was obviously too late.
I think people enjoy watching BKFC. I think fighters enjoy watching it. I think I saw Adrian Yanez tweet, he's a UFC fighter. He's like, this looks fun. This looks fun because you get to, like McGregor was always saying, I want to feel my shots, hear my shots winging through the air. So I feel like they like it more so than maybe a casual MMA fan would want to watch it. But if they get more name value, I could see that being, even more popular for sure. BKFC.
It's just so savage. It's so freaking savage. Like it's just every single time it's literally like opening your back door and just seeing two homeless people just freaking beating the shit out of each other. Like it's just like, and they're like Aaron said in our last show, like you could have no one has a chin. Like it's the first one to land is going to win. That's it. Like the Killa B fight was the only fight that really went the distance that it was like a toss up who won. Most people don't stay standing in those fights. Like it is just it's almost like UFC when it first started, like UFC 1 and UFC 2 where like almost everything was legal. It's just so savage. Like that it makes me cringe almost every time they get hit because it's like holy shit, like that looks so much more painful than the stuff that you see just in the UFC, and some of that is ridiculous. Like it is just it's insane.
Yeah, I still have not watched it, and I know we made the joke too that we were saying like, oh, if Michael Johnson jumped ship to the BKFC with those hands, he'd be able to pretty much knock
I don't
out
think
anyone.
That's a joke. Like I think he would be
just
good.
Actually, could yeah.
I think he would be good in bare knuckle because he has nothing else to worry about, and his hands are fast. He has just lost all. Like he can just box. That's it. He Once
Yeah.
Guida started pushing the pace on him as far as wrestling was concerned, he
was
fought off his
over.
back foot the whole time. If that fight there was no takedowns, it was just boxing, I think he honestly would have won. But so I think bare knuckle, I don't think that's a joke. I think he would legit be all right there. And he's only 34. It's not like he's ancient.
Is that on like a weekly basis? Like how often do they fight? Because I would watch that if $40 for the pay-per-view, but that's like a Super Bowl Sunday special, I imagine.
It's not every week. It's like
okay.
They don't fight as often as the UFC.
Because they don't have enough
fighters.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have enough fighters to fight every week yet. It's still a new promotion.
They have they have Thiago Alves, pretty big name, or that I would know.
Hector Lombard, I think fights there.
Yeah. I know they did the prelims on YouTube for free, but then you had to buy the pay-per-view.
Did you? I don't know if you guys saw the fan comment, Carrie. You want to throw?
I just saw that.
So did you guys? This is from Radical Rush. Did you guys see Frankie Edgar try to overturn his loss versus Sandhagen? He claims he was playing possum like Iwan Kutelaba so he can get Corey to the ground. I'm pretty sure that's a joke.
Yeah, that's not a thing. Yeah, that's 100% just a joke.
Because I saw Frankie put out his a post today about it, and he said, he got caught. So I know that's fake news. But you should definitely tweet that if you're viral on Twitter and let people know, because that is absolutely hysterical.
Good sport, Frankie Edgar, if you're joking. Hopefully you are joking.
Literally looked like a dead possum on the side of the road. He did great. It's great acting right there.
Yeah, Frankie has a future in Hollywood for sure. Yeah. If that was the case. God, man, funny. I still cannot. I can believe it, but I still can't believe that happened. I know we already had the recap show, but I'm still like in holy shit mode after that, because it was like, Corey Sandhagen is a goddamn savage.
100%. That's all that I had for news. I don't know if you had anything, or do you want to go into the picks?
No, I don't have any news. Josh, you have any news?
Any glory news? What's the scoop?
Grant Dawson just released his new episode for a vlog. Same with
KGTV.
KGD TV. So they're doing their vlog series is Fresh Media is doing for Grant. So just getting that inside, you get to know him a little bit better than a lot of people. But I mean, for news, you've got Julian Marquez, then Derek Minner, then Kevin Kroom, and then you've got FAC, which is regional fighting, and that's going to be on Fight Pass. You've interviewed some guys that have fought.
Devin Weber's fighting right soon.
Devin Weber is fighting on that card, I believe, against Caleb Crump, and then March 6th you have Megan Anderson fighting for the title. So it's like back-to-back weeks. You've got a KC fighter or a person that trains in KC fighting every single week up until like April. So it's awesome. It's a great time in KC for sure, MMA.
And what's your relationship like with all those guys? Like, are you friends with some of them, or how do you kind of get involved with that?
So I work closely with the Fresh Media, and we'll make content for them. I don't do any of the editing or camera skills, but I kind of go in there to put myself in that environment from a journalistic perspective to try to not create like maybe a business relationship, but also see what their minds are like from a perspective of, I'm not here to be a reporter. I'm here to just kind of observe, watch, and then eventually get my reporting legs. Then we can do some interviews and stuff, get the ball rolling. And now's a great time because they've all kind of got some fights coming around and stuff. So mainly with the Fresh Media, and whenever we go in there every weekend and kind of talk closely and do some work for the guys, and then just hang out, kick it and stuff like that. But yeah, they're all super cool, super welcoming. And it's cool to be in that environment for sure with James Krause.
Yeah, Glory MMA, those are our guys. I feel like we've interviewed like 3/4 of the gym, like as far as like professional and amateur fighters. There's been a ton of them. And while I'm at it,
the talent is crazy.
Yeah, we can plug the shirt, guys, that we
got the shirt back.
Grant Dawson did us a favor. So we got Gina's on here, Tim's on here, Jason Witt. We got
and Krause is on there.
James Krause, which I'm gonna venture to say, I'm terrible at reading script, but I'm gonna venture to say that's James Krause.
Was it the crazy one?
I'm gonna say it's this one. That is the most professional looking one on this shirt. You had, and I love Jason Witt. That's our guy, but good Lord, man, like that signature is. we're gonna have to talk to him about that. Like he didn't even sign. He just put his initials. Like he just in regular font, no script whatsoever. But that's totally okay. I wouldn't expect anything less from him. So yeah, I mean, we got a lot of people on here. So guys, we are going to be giving this shirt away. So we have one for the studio and we're giving one away. The only way that you can win the shirt, though, you have to represent a Coffee and KO's piece of merchandise and then tag us in it on Instagram. Guys, this shirt is well worth it. Let me tell you, James Krause's name on here alone is worth it. You got Gina, Tim Elliott, legend. You got Grant Dawson, who we believe is a future champ. I mean, God, this shirt it's an electric shirt. So you're gonna want to snag this and win it. So there it is, fellas.
Not to mention, it's actually a very comfortable shirt. I'm wearing mine right now. These are like some premium shirts we get.
Yeah. So make sure you guys get some Coffee and KO's merch. Tag us in it on Instagram. Everything is 20% off in the store. All you need to use is promo code UFC is back. 20% off. You can get the shirt for like $18. I mean, come on, it's not even that bad of a price. And get yourself a chance to win a shirt that's well worth over $100 if you wanted to resell it just on the names alone.
It's an investment right there with all those names.
Heck yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. We're putting ours in a nice little shadow box, and it's going right up to the left here in the studio. So, pretty pumped about it.
All right, time for picks.
Let's do some picks. Carrie, are you ready for picks?
All set and ready.
He wasn't. He was standing up, ready to go to the bathroom.
No, I feel like I just was in a bare knuckle fight, man. My head's killing me.
God, that's what being 30 years old will do to you.
And you're not joking.
All right, so we already kind of talked about this one, but first fight on the card, I believe so. Let me check.
It is.
Sometimes,
okay. Patolo.
Yeah, Maki Patolo versus Julian Marquez. This is going to be a good fight, guys. I think this is going to be just a war. Like, Coconut Bombs goes out there and just throws bombs. Obviously, Julian Marquez. I think Marquez has a better ground game. Josh, is he going to use it, though?
I think, like he said, he told me he can go anywhere with Maki Patolo, and he thinks he can get the better of him. There's no way I'm picking against Julian Marquez. I feel confident, too, with him being back in his story and everything like that. He's going to take the coconut bombs, and he said in another interview that he's got nukes for hands, so he can take the coconut bombs and give his nuke bombs, and then eventually KO him, ground and pound, submit, do whatever he wants to Maki Patolo, and I believe him.
Yeah, I don't I'm not I liked Maki Patolo, but he has looked pretty rough in his last couple fights. I think I like Marquez better in this matchup, if I'm being honest with you. I'm going to go
Maki Patolo, I think against Charles Byrd, he was a dog, so he's in my good graces. He's won me some money before, so.
Yeah, I don't win money when I bet ever, no matter what I do. I picked every fight right on Saturday and still didn't win money. So that's my luck. So I'm gonna go Marquez. I'm actually gonna go I'm gonna go knockout. Screw it. Why not? Start the main card off right. Marquez he's pretty tall too, 6'2". No reach advantage though, which that always kills me when a guy is that much taller than someone with no reach advantage. But yeah, I'm gonna go knockout. I don't think Patolo's coconut bombs are as lethal as he tries to say they are. I haven't really seen him light anyone up really. So yeah, I'm gonna go Marquez in this one, even though it's been a pretty long layoff for him.
Yeah, this is it's a good matchup. It's definitely a solid matchup. So both of these guys were on Dana White Contender Series. Patolo, yeah, like we saw him. He actually lost his UFC debut, and then he was a big dog against Charles Byrd. Wins that fight. I think that's what really kind of got attention to a lot of people started putting attention on him after that. But since then, he's already dropped 2. Granted, it was difficult competition. That was one to Darren Stewart, and the other one was to Impa. So 2 tough competition guys, but still, he's now 1-3 in the UFC. Julian Marquez, he actually is the one that knocked out Phil Hawes in his Dana White Contender Series fight. I think Phil Hawes went on to fight again in Dana White Contender Series and win, and now he's in the UFC. But in Julian Marquez's UFC debut, he subbed Darren Stewart. That's tough. That's real difficult. And he has a split decision loss to DiTrico, which again is another pretty veteran fighter. So I'm definitely leaning Marquez in this one. the bombs will be flying. Like you said, we got coconut bombs, but Marquez is packing nukes, so I'm going to go Marquez with the TKO as well.
Marquez is just built like a freaking train, bro. Like I'm looking at his UFC picture, and he's freaking massive. It's
Big
insane.
middle. Yeah, big middle.
Yeah.
Sure.
Gary?
Well, it seems to me like the consensus is all going towards Marquez, but I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I don't know about. I know I'm a little bit older than you guys, but I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z, and Patolo kind of reminded me of Piccolo. So just based on that fact alone, I'm going to go with Patolo TKO.
Yeah, Josh, I don't.
Get some volume. I could see maybe Patolo with like volume is maybe the only way.
I don't know how often you watch the show, Josh, but Kerry doesn't actually have too much UFC insight. He just makes witty picks, so like he's like the comic relief of the pick section.
Sometimes that's all you need in picks, and that makes you just right all the time. You know?
He's winning.
We're tied now.
Are you sure? I thought I had him at 17 and you 16.
I had 17 after I looked based on last week.
I'll double check. But also, Josh, did you have a method you want to choose on that?
Oh yeah, let me get. I'll do Marquez second round knockout.
So everyone has this fight's ending in a knockout according to Coffee and KOs.
Bet
whether
the
it goes
under.
one way or the other.
Yeah, he's got to get one round, his feet back in him, and then he'll start him at the end of the first, and then finish him in the second.
All right, next fight, and this is the fight I'm so excited for. This fight, Pedro Munoz, Jimmy Rivera. One of the reasons I love Jimmy Rivera is he comes in and he just like dad bods it too, almost like he's like fit, but like he's got like that fit dad bod. You know what I mean? Like he's still obviously in shape, but like he looks just, I don't know. He's 5'4", like, but he throws bombs for one. He's got great hands, and he also is very good on the ground. I don't see this fight really hitting the ground at all. Both of these guys really don't. They both average less than a takedown a fight. So I think it's going to stay standing. And I don't know if either one gets knocked out because they both have pretty good chins, but I could just see it being an absolute war, like back and forth. I'm going to go Jimmy Rivera. He actually is, which I'm a little surprised. He actually is the favorite, minus 150, slight favorite. But I'm going to go Jimmy Rivera. I'm going to go decision though.
Yeah, this is a super close one. The odds, yeah, I don't know. I think Munoz probably should be the favorite in this one. But both of these guys have been around for a while. You have Pedro Munoz, he's 8-5 in the UFC. Jimmy Rivera is 7-3 in the UFC. They've both fought absolute killers. Pedro Munoz, he has wins over Cody Garbrandt, Rob Font, our guy Rob Font. And he most recently he's actually on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Aljamain in 2019. Lost to Frankie most recently in August 2020. But Jimmy Rivera, he's fought Marlon Moraes. He fought Sterling at one point. He fought Petr Yan at one point. And if I remember correctly, that Petr Yan fight was not really like Petr Yan kind of knocks everyone out. I think he actually did pretty good in that one. And Jimmy Rivera is a decision machine. So he has 10 UFC fights. All of those have gone to decision except 2 of them. That's why I'm definitely kind of leaning decision in this one. Really hard to choose. I do like Rivera. Like, he does have good wrestling. I think in one of his fights against Cody Stamann, he was able to take him down, and Stamann's a pretty big time wrestler. So I feel like that could play a factor in this one. I am going to also go with Rivera, and I'll take him decision.
Okay. It's a 3-round. It's going to be 3 rounds of just action, I feel like.
Yeah.
I wish it was
fight of the night.
I wish it was a 5-round fight. Man. I was thinking Rivera. I watched that Petr Yan fight and Rivera today, and it was, Rivera fought very well. He just got hit with the big shots, and that kind of swayed the judges, but they were big shots. He definitely was rattled in that fight. Pedro lands those big shots. He's going to win, and I think he will. 3rd-round knockout, Pedro Munoz.
So before we move to the next fight, I want to ask Josh the idea that Steve and I had. So obviously you said that you wanted this fight to be, you wish it was 5 rounds. What do you think of like guys in the top 5? If they get matched up together, it has to be a 5-round fight because they're on their way to the title shot. So regardless, like if it's a co-main, if it's the 3rd fight from the main event, like whatever it is, if it's 2 guys in the top 5, it should be a 5-round fight, because at that point you are in title contention. Normally there could be a guy that's ranked 5 that fights for the belt if they're on a good run, like you don't know. So, or someone pulls out and they step in, whatever it is. So I feel like we talked about it on this show, anyone in the top 5, they're going to fight 5-round fights. I feel like that would be super smart from a UFC perspective, because like then what these guys are made of too.
I would like that. It would give betting people a lot more to look at in terms of, watch time or fight time, especially maybe top 5 or just main and co-main are both 5-round fights, something like that. But if you're in the top 5, you're probably a main or a co-main. So yeah, I definitely love that idea.
Yeah, I think that's something that we should pitch to the UFC, Steve.
I'll write an email. I'll get on that.
Yeah, make sure you CC me on that.
Write a letter.
We'll make a
Strongly
petition.
worded
We could just make a petition and we'll have a bunch of people sign it.
Okay. I'm in.
All right. You want to take us to the next one, Steve?
Yeah. This one.
Sorry. Hold on. Carrie.
We always forget about Carrie.
He went to go take his dog out, and I forgot all about him, and then he came back.
Yeah, it's fine. Again, we're gonna go to the language lesson here. Rivera is actually Spanish slang for of the river, and since I live by a river, why not go with Rivera? So I'm just gonna go with Rivera, and I'll hang out with my boys in the decision bracket.
Carrie doesn't want to fall too far behind, so he's just
gonna. I gotta take
this?
some of your picks.
All right, now Steve, you're good to go.
All right, so this is a great fight. So Kelvin Gastelum, he's ranked number 9 right now. Then he's taking on Ian Heinisch, who just got ranked. He's now number 15 in that division. Kelvin Gastelum just had such a wild career. Like, he entered into the UFC at a super young age. I think he won the Ultimate Fighter, and that was back in 2013 against Uriah Hall. 7-2 in his first 9 UFC fights. His only losses were to Tyron Woodley, Neil Magny. He actually has wins over Michael Bisping in 2017, Jacare Souza in 2018. We all remember the fight that he went to war with Israel Adesanya, fought Darren Till, fought Jack Hermanson. Like, he has been around the block. Like, at one point, he must have been definitely a top 5 guy at one point, but he's just fallen off a cliff. I don't know what's going on with him. I think he's on a 3-fight losing streak right now. I'm not like giving up on him. Like, he's still super young. He's only 29 years old. He obviously has a ton of like wrestling experience, has a ton of power. He's a great striker. And Ian Heinisch is just not really a guy that to me is a very dangerous fighter. I think he's a solid fighter. I don't think he's very dangerous. Hasn't really faced the level of competition that Gastelum has. So it is minus 220 for Gastelum. He is the heavy favorite here, but I do like him in this one. Let's go with a TKO by Kelvin Gastelum. Get him back in that win column.
Yeah, this fight's kind of weird for me. Like, I'm having a really hard time getting excited about this fight. Ever since I saw it booked, it's just very odd to me. Like, huge jump up for Heinisch. Like, you look at all Heinisch's opponents, and then he goes up against Gastelum. You're like, wow, that's a huge jump. Wasn't Heinisch slated? Who was he slated to fight before that it got canceled? And the next thing you know, it was, oh my God, now he's booked against Kelvin Gastelum. Like, how does he go from this fight to that fight? Like, it was super odd. So I'm struggling a little bit with getting excited about it. And, for me, I think I'm going to go Gastelum as well. And I'm going to go TKO. I think Gastelum has enough wrestling experience. Like, Heinisch is a pure wrestler. Like, I feel like that's what he does. When he wins his fights, he's dominating on the ground. And I just, like, Gastelum's a good enough wrestler to keep the fight from the ground. Like, what got him in trouble against Hermanson is the fact Hermanson is a wizard in the submission game. Like, if he didn't fight Hermanson, I think he'd be able to hold his own as far as wrestling is concerned. And I think he has a way better striking advantage. Heinisch does get hit. We've seen it in his fights. He gets hit. So, I'm going to say Gastelum as well. I think that if you're betting, though, and you're looking to get a dog, I don't know that Heinisch is a bad bet at plus 180. But I'm going to go just because of the experience. I think Kelvin Gastelum, like you said, he still is only 29. Like, eventually, I think he's going to turn this around. He's had a rough go of it. I kind of compare it to like you were defending Woodley about the guys he's fought. Well, I mean, Gastelum has fought just straight killers. So to me, Heinisch is that breath of fresh air you were talking about, and I think he gets it done. So I'm going to go Kelvin Gastelum. But if he loses this one, Gastelum is he might be getting walking papers, dude. Because I think the UFC is like, you better win this goddamn fight because this is like a given W almost in their eyes.
It was oh, sorry, just real quick. It was Heinisch versus Brendan Allen, and then there was a COVID thing going on, and then Heinisch beat Gerald Meerschaert, which kind of everyone does.
Which propelled him to Kelvin Gastelum, which makes me want to take Gastelum even more. That's why I had a hard time getting excited, because it's just a weird jump in competition.
Yeah, I really do like Gastelum. Heinisch is a tough guy. I learned about Iridium Sports Agency probably like a couple months ago, and ever since I've learned about them, all of the fighters they have, it seems like they just don't lose. And Heinisch is one of their fighters, and I've watched him fight a couple times. He is a tough son of a he's a tough.
You can curse, it's okay.
He's a tough son of a bitch, and like I wouldn't be surprised if he won this fight. I really wouldn't, but I'm gonna take Gastelum by decision because I think he is still one of the best, even though he's been in there a lot, lately, or just a lot in general.
You know what's funny is Gerald Meerschaert must be the guy that you have to beat to propel yourself to like top 5 competition, because Chimaev beat him, and he's fighting the number 3 ranked guy now.
Yeah, so what's up with that?
All you got to do is basically beat Gerald Meerschaert, and you're a title contender.
He's like the reverse King Midas. It's like if you hit him, you somehow it turns into gold. I don't know.
He looks like Meerkat. He
does.
Oh God! All right, what? Carrie,
dude, I'm sitting right next to you.
I know. You were staring at me too. I could feel you staring at
awful.
me.
I mean, there's no doubt that Gastelum can come in and gas him up, gas Heinisch up. But Heinisch to me just sounds like the Family Dollar brand Heinz, and sometimes that's all you need. So I'm gonna go Heinisch, and I'm gonna go decision.
So you're for the dollar brand shit?
Yes. Listen, man. Sometimes you just need to go to the dollar store and get that brand instead of going for the name brand.
I don't know if you would take that as a compliment or an insult. You just call him dollar store food. I don't know if that'd be. Man, but then you pick some.
For a lot of people.
All right. I mean, listen, Heinisch. I will say Heinisch's story is absolutely crazy. If you don't know about it, you better go check it out. Time in prison, like hard time in prison. Yeah, his story is insane.
Well, maybe I want to take that back then.
All right, co-main, which I still cannot believe this is the co-main. Macy Barber, Alexa Grasso. Listen, first time we've seen Barber fight in a while because of the ACL injury, and she's a dog. She's a dog in this fight, which that's what those injuries and losses will really affect. The Vegas betting lines. And it's funny because, if this fight was a year ago and she didn't get hurt, she's probably a massive favorite in this fight. And instead she's a dog. And I think for good reason. I like Grasso a lot. But I don't know. Barber, if you look at the stats, Barber is just they're pretty similar, but Barber just has the edge in every area of mixed martial arts. She's got a higher significant strike percentage, higher significant strikes landed per minute, higher takedown average. The only thing, Grasso seems to be a little bit better on the ground, but I do think Macy Barber is going to actually overpower her a little bit in the wrestling game. I think it'll be, for me, Barber is still young. She's still hungry. I do think Macy Barber comes out and gets the dub, and I think it's going to be a decision win for Macy Barber. But I think it'll be a good scrap, not a co-main scrap, but I think it'll be a good scrap.
Yeah, with all due respect to Grasso, I'm gonna hammer Macy Barber in this one, plus 120.
Yeah, plus 120. Yeah, you have to.
I think it's just like you said. It's if that injury doesn't happen, she could be a minus 300 favorite in this one. She has she's 8-1. She is basically just knocking everyone out. She knocked out Jillian Robinson, who was ranked, and Hannah Cypher's pretty difficult opponent. She was probably going to win that fight against Roxanne had she not just torn her ACL mid-fight.
I don't know. That was the best fight that Roxy ever fought. I think she was winning that fight prior to the ACL injury. I just think that was a bad version of Macy Barber. That doesn't happen again. I think that was just a shit fight from her.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and rewatch that one, but maybe I'm misremembering it. But just take that fight out of the equation. She's just knocking everyone out. I'm not sold on Grasso, she's 4-3 in the UFC. She basically goes win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. It's very up and down. just it's not enough for me to take her over Barber, who a lot of people just have a ton of stock in. They think she's going to be the next big thing in the women's division. She's only 22 years old. They're basically the same size. There's no reach advantage here. So I just think the power of Barber is just going to overtake. So I'm going to go Macy Barber, TKO.
I also don't hate when young fighters lose early on. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like losing at 21 years old is like, that's not a bad thing. She lost to one of the like most veteran fighters in the UFC in Roxy. Like, to me, like, if anything, that's going to make Barber more dangerous because at 22, she's now lost. Like, the undefeated thing is not hanging over your head. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And she learned, like, it's just a different mindset after that. So I think for her, like, I think a loss is actually not even the worst thing that could have happened to her.
I'd like to watch the Embedded series, just to see where Macy Barber's head is at a little bit. But she's got absolute jackhammers for thighs, and they're huge. I think she's a little bit overhyped, and coming off an ACL and the jackhammer thighs, I don't think she's going to get injured, but maybe a leg kick by Grasso and just volume of a top 15 opponent. I think Grasso could potentially TKO her if she gets a cut on her, and then I could see the finish coming in like the second round for Grasso. I really could envision that, or I could see Macy Barber taking it to the ground and kind of just stomping her with the ground and pound and stuff like that. But I'll take Grasso right now for sure.
You like decision on that, or you want the finish?
Second round. I'm gonna say second round knockout. She gets a cut on her, kicks the leg multiple times in the first round, and then takes her out.
I mean, at this point, you guys might as well just call me Rosetta Stone Rob, because I'm going to give you another language lesson. Grasso, Spanish for grass cutter. Barber, Spanish for hair cutter. In my early 20s, I was a landscaper. So I'm going to go Grasso. And normally I would pick like TKO or something, but I always get laughed at when I pick a women's fight for TKO.
But this one would make sense.
Nope, I'm going decision. I'm going Grasso, the grass cutter, decision.
The grass cutter. All right.
So we're split on that one.
And by the way, we'll make that the double scary carry.
A double,
man. I wanted to see Steve's funny helmet picture. I'm sad.
I know. Well, you guys do this to me every week. It seems ever since I made.
We should be wearing our
graphics.
wigs right now, to be honest.
Oh, I forgot about the wigs.
Hey,
Why are you bring that up? He forgets.
I'm just trying to be
30.
fair to Carrie.
He's 30 years old. He's got a terrible memory. Stop reminding him. He forgot about it.
You're never gonna do it anyway.
We'll do it next episode. All right, main event, guys. Gilbert Burns, Kamaru Usman. Fingers crossed it stays for the till they make the walk to the octagon, because this fight, it's been canceled twice now, right? Or rescheduled technically.
Yeah.
You had Masvidal stepped in, and then I think there was one other time that it was supposed to happen. But anyway, it's finally here. We're a week away. Hopefully they make it there. And listen, when this fight was first announced, well, both times it was announced, I was very high on Gilbert Burns. Very, very high. I really thought he has the chance to dethrone Kamaru Usman. But kind of as I've let it simmer a little bit, I'm kind of starting to move back towards Usman. I think for one, Gilbert Burns, like he was hot, right? Like he was on fire, running through everyone. But now it's kind of hit a snag. Like when fights start getting canceled, I feel like it kind of derails the momentum a little bit. Like you're going out there, you're fighting a lot, you're knocking guys out, you're dominating fights. And then you have two fights, you get yourself all amped up 2 times, and then boom, gone, derailed. And I think over that time, really, I think that momentum kind of starts to get taken away. And Usman, man, I just rewatched the highlights to Covington and Usman, and I will always say that fight was a lot closer than people give it credit for. But I just, Usman's striking is very good for a guy that wrestles a lot. And we didn't see it much in the Masvidal fight because it's George Masvidal. That's what he does is strikes. Like if it was against anyone else, his striking is pretty good. And I think Burns has looked good since moving up, but I still think Usman is just so strong, dude. Like he's so strong. His wrestling is so good. The only way I could see this fight leaning in Gilbert's favor is if it's on the ground and he does throw up a crazy sub. But Usman is just so strong. I think that he will have the ability to take Burns down and kind of be able to control the fight there. I don't know. I don't even think that Burns has a striking advantage. Like, I think that he's a good striker. But I don't know that he has an advantage. Like, like I said, I was watching Usman fight Covington, and like his power and his hand speed is pretty damn good for a guy that doesn't really get credit for striking. So I think that it's almost like Petr Yan. Like, we forget how good of a wrestler Petr Yan is because everyone talks about his boxing. I think people kind of forget that Usman can stand and fight. So I'm going to actually lean towards Usman in this one, but I don't see either guy getting finished. I think both guys have pretty good chins. His chin's never, I mean, he wore a couple of good shots from Covington, but like never really looked wobbled. Burns, since moving up, has looked pretty good, although he hasn't really had anyone test him so far, I feel like, at this division. So, but I'm going to lean towards Usman. I'm actually going to go decision on this one. I don't know like what the odds are for going to decision. I feel like both guys are super powerful, but I think that the style in which they fight will make the fight go to decision. Unless I could see Usman getting the finish if he was to like almost do what he did to Covington and just wear on him through the rounds, and by 4th and 5th round, maybe inflict enough damage that it can cause, Burns to eventually just curl up and then that be it. But I think it's going to go to the judges' scorecards.
Yep. I think right off the bat, when this line came out, I definitely jumped on Burns. But as I was kind of looking into this more and researching it, I actually did the same exact thing as you, Zach. I actually have flip-flopped a little bit back to Kamaru Usman. Just looking at his resume, dude, he lost his second career pro fight back in 2013. He has won every single fight since then. He's on a 16-fight win streak, which obviously includes the dismantling of Tyron Woodley. He was the first one to do that. And then since then, he's defended once against Colby Covington, who is an extremely great fighter. Did that in a fashion that is completely against what his strengths are. Like you said, he went into the boxing in that one. And then he obviously dismantled George Masvidal as well. So the thing that I really like about Kamaru Usman is when you look at most of his fights, he's usually going for all the takedowns, gets the control, and that's kind of his game. And he's pretty much had a takedown in every fight except for 2, and that was one against Colby Covington. He did not have a takedown, and the other one was against Demian Maia. So that's obvious that he realizes the situation. Don't go to the ground against Demian Maia. Don't go to the ground against Colby Covington. I'm going to stand up and strike. So he has extremely good fight IQ, and I really feel like we don't talk about Kamaru Usman enough being the champ that he is, and he's just dismantled everyone, and he's not really in that conversation of like, I don't know, top 5 greats to do it, but he's really making a name for himself with that 16-fight win streak, and now he's defending the title a whole bunch. And I think the big thing with Gilbert Burns is, yeah, he's super well-rounded, but when I look at his level of competition, like I feel like he's getting overhyped a little bit. In his 6-0 run, his last 3 fights have been Gunnar Nelson, an old Demian Maia, and then Tyron Woodley after Kamaru Usman had already kind of tossed him in the trash. So I'm not really sold on Gilbert Burns that much. The more I look into it, he's very, very well-rounded. I get it, has a ton of submissions on record. He has power, but the level of competition just isn't there for me to choose against Usman, who I just think is such a smart fighter and well-rounded as well. So I originally was going Burns. I am going to switch over, and I'm going to take Usman, and I'll go decision too.
Yeah, you guys make really good points about everything with the fight being announced. Yeah, definitely Burns. I had it. The thing is, I think Burns has such good jiu-jitsu credentials that I don't know if Kamaru really wants to go to the ground with him. He might try to keep it standing. And with a powerful 170er and Gilbert Burns, he's definitely more powerful at 70 than 55. I think he's going to look really good in this fight, and throw in the fact that Kamaru changed camps, went to Trevor Whitman, albeit it is Trevor Whitman. But switching camps for the second time, and you're defending it against not Jorge Masvidal this time, you're defending it against Gilbert Burns, and a credit to Jorge Masvidal too. But I like when the fight's announced, I have a pick in mind, that sticking with it. It worked for me with Poirier, and I think when it was announced, I had Burns all the way. So I'm going to stick with Burns and say decision as well. Both of these guys are equally willing to engage in this fight. I think it's going to be a fantastic fight, but I'm going to edge Burns with a decision.
I think that what I took away most from the Covington fight was that I think that fight brought the best out of Kamaru Usman from a striking standpoint. Like, we had not really seen him strike like that. And then to know, like, he knew that him and Colby are pretty equal wrestlers, in my opinion. I really think that. And the thing with Colby is I think that he has the best stamina in that division. I think Colby has better stamina than Kamaru. And the only way to break down Colby was to strike. Like, the more a guy wears damage, the more tired they get, right? So I think that kind of brought out, and like Steve said, he is very intelligent. And I think that's kind of where I lead to him a little bit more. But I would not be surprised if Gilbert Burns won. I just, I feel like my gut now has just kind of shifted. Like, it's weird. Like, I really was on Burns from day one. And then it's just like over the last 2 weeks, I'm just like, man, there's just something about Kamaru Usman that I just can't bet against this week. I don't know what it is.
Two things there. I do think it's interesting because when you go and you rewatch that fight against Colby, Kamaru got hit. Like,
yeah, the first like 2 rounds,
he was getting hit, and Colby can't really strike. Like, he throws pretty sloppy punches. Like, there's not a ton of power behind them. But if Gilbert Burns catches you, you're gonna go out. So that's the only thing I have on that.
But maybe that's why he moved to Whitman, because like, Whitman's a pretty good coach when it comes to striking. Like, maybe he's like, this is my weakest point. I need to address that.
Also, Usman has a 5-inch reach advantage, which is pretty huge.
Yeah.
My phone almost died, so I had to switch to closer to the charger. But
no problem.
Oh, no worries.
Usman. I think Gilby's got a fire that burns deep within. I think we're going to see that in this fight. I think he's going to catch Usman. I think we're going to see a Gilby Burns KO. That's what I'm going with.
Nice.
Damn.
But you should have done that as Scary Carry.
I mean, I could switch it if you want to wear the wig 2 weeks in a row.
You can't switch it because it's already
Can we double
in.
down? And if we win both of them, then that takes away a wig?
Ooh.
I mean, at this point, does it matter? You don't wear the wigs anyway. I'll stick with my Scary Carry.
All
right, guys. Anyway, anything else for the good of the cause before we shut it down?
Thanks for having me, boys. Thanks for making my Coffee and KO's debut pay-per-view card we can talk about. I enjoyed it, so it was awesome.
No problem, man. Anytime. Steve?
I just want to say, anyone that watched the Super Bowl last night, Tom Brady came back with his 7th Super Bowl trophy, that 7th ring. There is no more discussion anymore. I don't want to hear any of the haters coming out. He's not a system quarterback. It wasn't Bill Belichick. Tom Brady's a winner. That's what he does. It just doesn't matter. He's the GOAT, and he's the GOAT of GOATs. So
you're from Boston, yeah.
I also don't want to hear that football's rigged. And I know we're not a football podcast, but Andy Reid screwed himself in that game when he called the timeouts before halftime to give Tom Brady a shot at another touchdown. Not that it would have mattered. Obviously, they completely shut down Patrick Mahomes, but those timeouts just made no sense. Like, you don't give Tom Brady extra time to drive down the field and score another touchdown before halftime. Made no sense to me. Andy Reid, he does it again, man, not knowing how to manage the time.
I'm an Eagles fan, but I'm in KC. I cover KC fighters. We're all being punished by the -8-degree weather, so it's not fun for any of us.
I want to know how you became an Eagles fan.
Oh, lifelong Eagles fan, man.
Are you from Pennsylvania?
My aunt lives there, so I try to go out to a game every year, but I couldn't go this year, obviously. But lifelong Eagles fan.
I'm a Bears fan, and there's rumblings Carson Wentz, and I do not want Carson Wentz. I will throw a fit if they get. I will rather Ryan Fitzpatrick. I would rather give me like a quarterback on a 1-year deal, and let's just ride that out for a couple years. Like, I am totally cool with having Jameis Winston, like any Jacoby Brissett's out there. I'll take Jacoby Brissett over Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, Mitch Trubisky, same damn person. I don't care what anyone says. So, I don't want Carson Wentz. And if it happens, I don't want him. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for the Coffee and KO's podcast. You can find us on all podcasting platforms. Anywhere you like to listen, we're there. You can also find us on YouTube, Twitch, anywhere. We're there. Coffee and KOs. All handles are Coffee and KOs 1. YouTube is Coffee and KOs. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can also catch us on Saturday nights after the fights. We are live on the Fight Bananas YouTube channel. We have a lot of good interviews coming up for you guys as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Josh, thanks for joining us. We can't wait to have you back on. And guys, we will see you next week. This show is also brought to you by Sheath. I almost forgot to mention Sheath Underwear. Sheath Underwear. Go to sheathunderwear.com. Use promo code COFFEENKOs. Get 20% off your entire purchase. Don't forget to sheath your dagger. And everyone, take it easy.